Avengers Endgame, Toy Story 4, Us. There were plenty of great films released this year, but we also saw plenty of stinkers. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst movies of 2019.
Yea, though she walked in the valley with the shadow of Little Red Riding Hood and the three bears, she feared no evil, because the three little pigs was not around.
Amen.
For this list, we're looking at some of the very worst films released in 2019, either theatrically or to streaming services. We'll mainly be looking at major releases, but smaller indie films will also be considered, as long as their poor quality was enough to earn them a fair amount of attention and press. Number 10, Men in Black International. If you were born in the late 80s or early 90s, chances are that you really loved the first Men in Black film. It was smart, funny, charming, and wholly original, boasting impressive special effects, a well-paced narrative, and a ton of heart.
I make this look good.
With the exception of the special effects, that also works as a list of ways in which Men in Black International failed.
You really think a black suit is going to solve all your problems? No.
With Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson in the leading roles, MIB International had the star power needed to give this franchise a new lease on life, but the film was just so painfully boring. The villains are utterly forgettable, the action underwhelms, and the jokes rarely elicit more than a chuckle. Number 9, Lucy in the Sky. Natalie Portman is one of those stars who instantly inspires confidence, be it in a major production or a smaller indie picture. And given the fact that Noah Hawley, the creator of both Legion and the Fargo TV series, was in the director's chair, people just naturally assumed that this film was going to be a compelling, mature, and unique space-related drama.
You keep your eye on this one. She'll show you how it's done.
It had Oscar contender written all over it. But how wrong we were. Portman does her best, but the story's just a freaking mess.
This is not a drill, cadet. Grab your stuff.
What are you doing?
It's a film that shoots for the stars with its themes, but fails to make it out of the atmosphere, petering out long before it says much of anything.
Time to wrap it up.
Just a few more minutes.
Number 8, The Goldfinch. If a novel becomes a bestseller, it's a pretty safe bet it's gonna get the big screen treatment, especially if it wins a major award like the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction.
You feel that?
Unfortunately, success in the form of literature does not always translate to success on the big screen, which The Goldfinch proved the hard way.
I would have given it back. I swear.
The film was blessed with an incredibly talented cast, including Ansel Elgort, Finn Wolfhard, Sarah Paulson, Jeffrey Wright, and Nicole Kidman. Plus a proven director, John Crowley, who brought us 2015's Brooklyn. Unfortunately, in attempting to stay true to the emotionally intricate and thematically rich novel, the film they made was an exceedingly dull one. The next Gone Girl, this was not.
The sooner we get back to a normal routine, the better.
Number 7, Hellboy.
For the record, this wasn't my idea.
This is one of those films that didn't just fall short of fan expectations. It served as a lesson in how not to make movies. A reboot of the franchise first adapted by Guillermo del Toro. Hellboy follows a demonic superhero who protects humanity from supernatural forces of evil. The original comics are extremely atmospheric and deeply entrenched in folklore, classic horror, as well as pulp adventures of bygone years. The movie superficially hews close to the source material, but completely misses out on everything that makes Hellboy special.
Don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Worse, it's tonally all over the map, and feels extremely misguided in its attempts to be modern and badass. The fact that the plot is entirely driven by massive exposition dumps certainly does not help. Number 6, Gemini Man. This is one of those films that we wish could get a do-over. But honestly, considering it was in development hell for nearly 20 years, maybe this is the best movie it could have been. Will Smith is great in the dual leading roles, delivering believable emotional performances as both the aging government assassin and his young clone.
You're just trying to rattle me.
I'm trying to save you!
Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Benedict Wong similarly do their best with poorly written characters. As for the film's premise, it's plenty compelling, but the execution is all wrong. Filmed at 120 frames per second, it's a film that pushes the medium in ways that sometimes makes it hard to watch. And it feels like quality dialogue, narrative logic, and pacing were ignored in the process.
This thing that you're struggling with is fear. Embrace it and then overcome it.
Number 5, Rambo: Last Blood.
You're dealing with an expert with guns. knives with his bare hands.
When a character is as iconic as John Rambo, it must be hard for an actor to retire the role. After all, second only to Rocky Balboa, Rambo is a massive part of Sylvester Stallone's legacy as an actor.
Rambo was the best.
Unlike with Rocky, however, Stallone has yet to find redemption for his tortured Vietnam veteran's less than stellar later installments. But with this fourth rotten sequel, and the least well-received film in the series to date, we really hope that Stallone will just put the character to bed. The story is a mess, and despite attempts to make Rambo sympathetic, it's hard to root for somebody this brutally violent, especially in a film that's been criticized for perceived xenophobic undertones. Number 4, The Fanatic.
Hey, Aaron.
Chocolate mousse.
I can't talk too long. I gotta poo.
John Travolta, what happened? In recent years, the actor has gone full Nicolas Cage, which is too bad because as we saw with his performance as Robert Shapiro in 2016's The People vs. O.J. Simpson American Crime Story, he has still got the chops. Now he's playing an obsessed fan in a psychological thriller directed by Fred Durst.
Don't let him do this to me, Amanda. I'm a fan. I'm a #1 fan. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I came here to see Hunter Dunbar. Leah! Leah! Leah!
It's campy, but not campy enough to become a classic. And though Travolta turns in a committed performance, the film is completely devoid of humanity or likable characters. Even worse, it fails to say anything insightful about its key themes of celebrity and obsession. But let's not forget that 2019 also saw Travolta in the equally awful Trading Paint.
That bad, huh?
Number 3, Serenity. Every now and then, a film gets released that's so obviously bad that the distributor essentially sweeps it under the rug as if they're disposing of a body. Such was the treatment received by 2019's Serenity following terrible test screenings.
If it helps, I don't much know either. I just kind of know what's supposed to happen.
How such a massive misfire could occur with such a rock-solid cast, we'll never know. But most of the responsibility lands at the feet of the script.
Because like I say, you were right, and I was wrong.
It's a convoluted film with twists, turns, and character motivations that feel completely unrealistic and often downright absurd. The melodrama verges into the realm of parody, and the cliches come fast and heavy.
I'll get that.
It's honestly almost worth a watch in the so bad it's good sense. Number 2, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Who are you? The better question is, who are you?
You know, as exciting as the acquisition of Fox by Disney is for the MCU, it was sad to see this long-running franchise come to an end. If the filmmakers were trying to soften the blow with this film, however, they succeeded. In fact, that's about the only way it succeeded. This was Fox's second attempt to adapt the fan-favorite Phoenix Saga story arc, and it was a bigger failure than X-Men The Last Stand, which is saying a lot.
Did you hear what the kids are calling it?
Do I want to know?
Yeah. Phoenix. It's cool, right? No? Bird that rises from the dead?
From the film's uninspired performances and muddled character motivations to the lackluster direction and messy plot, the film makes the MCU X-Men reboot a welcome one. This franchise, which started so strong, deserved a much better send-off. This list has gone back and forth between Oscar bait and failed blockbusters, but I will give you a clue and say that number 1 is neither. But it is offensive. Alright, let's check out the dishonorable mentions, and then we'll name our worst movie of 2019.
I still can't believe it.
Believe what?
That you're mine?
Not this again.
What's it called?
I think it's HDA. Histone deacetylase inhibitor. It targets traumatic memories. The vets, they call it the ladder.
Take this to the guest room, butlery person.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Laquisha.
They want women and minorities. They don't want white guys like me telling them what to do. If I was a black woman, I'd be perfect.
Who thought this was a good idea? Jeremy Saville, who wrote, directed, and starred in this horribly misguided and critically reviled film. For those fortunate enough to be unaware, Laquisha tells the story of a middle-aged white average Joe, seriously, his name is Joe, whose life is going nowhere until he decides to impersonate a black woman to land himself a radio gig.
You live with Laquisha. Welcome to the first episode. My name is Laquisha, and we gonna be talking. My mama, she called me Laquisha's Laquisha. She said I had the gift of gab.
For the record, the film's not just offensive and egregiously tone-deaf, it's also a shoddily made movie in terms of cinematography, character development, dialogue, and more. Brian Lloyd of Entertainment.ie dubbed it, quote, the worst movie of this decade, while The Guardian's Joel Golby went further, claiming it was, quote, the worst film ever made.
I think I might be a black woman trapped in a white man's body.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.